Goss from the Spirit Mountain Healing Center. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
We wanted to have you on to talk about, well, you have an incredible background in healing and therapy, and you do what's called equine assisted learning. Tell us more about that.
Well, we use horses in the process to help us understand why we get stuck. And making the intangible tangible, if you will. We all know if things aren't quite working right in our life, but we don't know what. And the horses work in the present moment and help us see that. And then we get to practice new skill sets in that moment with the horses and get instant feedback on whether it worked or not. And then we get to make the decisions on how we apply that in our life to go forward and practice and live a better life.
When you say that horses are living in the present, that means that they're constantly in survival mode, right? They're sensing right now, should I be fearful, right? Is that why they're able to connect to people and essentially be a mere reflection of how that person is feeling?
No, not really.
No?
I mean, they do live in the present moment, but that's not necessarily being in survival mode all the time, because none of us are designed to be in survival mode all the time.
Correct.
If you leave the lights on all the time, at some point, even if it's an LED, it will burn out. But what they do is they have one of the best memories in the animal kingdom to remember what they need to be afraid of. They have to use their energy very efficiently in order to survive. They're 1,000-pound animals designed to eat grass, and their main means of defense is running. So you need to balance that. And that's part of training with the horses, is understanding that we can desensitize them to something that would normally be afraid and bring them out of survival mode, which is basically kind of what I do with people with the horses.
Right.
We desensitize to things because our system doesn't know if the threat is real or perceived. It doesn't know here and now, it only knows there and then. And that's why we repeat our patterns. We get stuck and why do I keep doing this? Why am I in a bad relationship? We're the only animals on the planet that have the ability to ask why, and we are the only animals by thought alone can create our own emotional response. So we get stuck.
But the people oftentimes who are using, whether it's in equine therapy or going to, Spirit Mountain, the humans are often operating in a fight or flight response.
Absolutely.
Way more than a regulated system person would be. So they're able, that's why I think the connection is so great between horse and those people who are in that constant fight or flight state of response.
Just the calming effect. I had a client this morning that had him go out and do an activity and took a chair and a bucket and was doing this project we've been working on before, and kind of combined two activities and went out into the paddock, and he needed space. And the horses stayed away from him, not rejectively, but just away from him as he was working on it. And eventually one came over and kind of bugged, and he's like, well, this is one of my friends, but he was able to say, no, not right now. The horse walked away. Another horse came up and stood there. I actually have pictures of it, of the horse standing right there watching him do this activity and held space for him.
Wow.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's what he needed this morning.
You've been working with horses, you said, for over 30 years.
All my life.
All your life. And how does the spirituality component play into this for you?
Just connecting with self is the biggest thing. I don't just talk the talk, I walk the walk. One of my horses has saved my life. And one of their brother and sister, full brother and sister, their grandmother was my first horse. So this goes on for generations. Their mother knew me better than I knew myself. And so I think that's the spiritual. They know things that we just don't know or don't understand. And they accept us with all the garbage. I mean, I was listening to the previous story. Yeah, I get that. And here's these huge animals, or my two miniatures, that hold space and go, so what? So what if you've had all that stuff? We get you as you are right now. And I think that's really the powerful spiritual part of it, is being accepted for who we are, no matter what we've gone through, where we're at, as we are right there in that moment.
But that's what makes them special.
Absolutely.
Is because they're able to sense, is this person hurting? Is this person sad? Is this person nervous?
Right.
Because I believe they can't they even feel or hear the heartbeat?
Oh, absolutely. This is all about energy.
Yeah, it's all energy.
Energy. And
energy is everything.
They're very good at reading that, and they reflect what we need
right.
and give us what we need.
Correct.
Can you talk a little bit about the type of people who come to see you? I know our producer was mentioning that your mother, you've worked with your mother in a therapeutic way because she has MS, correct?
She had MS, yes.
Had MS, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about sort of the other people who come to see you and where you see the most effectiveness?
Well, the majority of people that I work with have traumas, usually around anxiety and being stuck in survival mode. Anxiety, depression, mostly anxiety is, I would say, is the number one thing that I do, and dealing with traumas of affective abuse, whether it's sexual, physical, emotional. We all know someone who's been affected, whether it's ourselves or somebody else that's been affected by that. And helping, and I work with the unit, not just the individual client, but the families as well. Because this, as I call it, is a herd issue. It's not an individual issue. Mm-hmm. Because what one person is going through does affect the rest of the herd. Mm-hmm. And we are herd creatures by design. We're social and we need each other. But if we're all stuck in survival mode, as I call it, we ping off each other. Mm-hmm. And it creates a lot of discourse and disconnect, anxiety, fear, depression, aggression, pick something. I mean,
trauma's generational.
Absolutely.
And if
100%.
our parents don't heal from their trauma, they will pass that trauma down onto their children. And
Absolutely.
That's how it becomes, especially in that herd mentality, that you really have to treat the herd. You have to treat the family as a whole, and those who even suffer from addiction, right?
Oh,
the
absolutely.
impact of that addict. I always say, okay, yes, enough attention is being paid to the addict, but we need to also pay attention to the family.
Yeah.
Right. I have a 14-year-old daughter myself, so I get it. And I did my work because I saw the pattern repeating.
Correct.
And I went,
No, not
I'm
again.
taking the power back. And I work with addicts as well. I work with different facilities here in the Valley to help all that.
Yeah.
Can you just leave the audience with a final word? And if you could, I think you speak so eloquently about this. I can see how good you are at what you do. But because anxiety is something so many people deal with, if I was listening to this or watching this and thinking, where do I start? I have all this anxiety. Like, what do I do?
Reach out to me.
Yeah.
Come see the horses, come hang with them.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. That's the power of this. We don't have to sit and talk about all this.
Correct.
If you're anxious, let's go talk to the horses. A client of mine that just started, an older gal who has been a victim of the romantic scam, took all her savings, everything. She has nothing left. She came to me for her first session. She was not doing well, very unstable, just very shut down. I introduced her to all the horses, and we had a dust storm coming, and I'm like, okay, we need to go. And she's like, I need to say goodbye. Her whole affect completely changed, her persona, everything. And she's like, because one of my little minis, actually, she felt accepted by them in that moment, despite what she'd gone through. And she's like, I can't wait to see you guys again.
And I can connect with this on this level, because so many of the people who suffer trauma and experience trauma, right? They do the one-on-one therapies, they do all the clinical stuff. And what I do in my art studio, it's not clinical art therapy. They're not collaging. They're not talking to me about their traumas. They're able to come in. They're able to just kind of listen to music, choose whatever colors, get their hands messy in the paint, and just be for an hour.
Just be.
And it calms. It helps with their anxiety.
Sure. It takes us out of survival mode and balances us and gives us
And that's
a break.
exactly what you're doing. And
Absolutely.
I think it's such a beautiful thing.
I do too. Michelle, thank you so much.